Throwback Thursday, y'all.
Hey.
What's cracking?
You know.
How y'all doing? Midweek check-in.
Midweek check. Is it mid? It's not midweek.
It's not midweek, but it's mid-ish week.
End of the week.
It's a weekend junior.
Friday Eve.
Yeah, it's weekend junior.
Weekend. You know what's crazy is in Jordan, Thursday is our Friday. So always in my mind, when I hit Wednesday, the week is over because tomorrow's Friday.
Shit, Thursday used to be my Friday. Boy, I used to get buck on Thursdays.
Damn.
That's when it used to start. My phone used to be going crazy. Everybody was like, man, what's going on this weekend? This weekend started.
You would start going out on Thursday.
Thursday, 8 p.m.
But like you worked retail, so you like worked weekend, so it doesn't even count.
Yeah, right. Well, it don't, but it also didn't matter. I was also 23 years younger.
Yeah.
Your boy was getting it no matter what. You know what I mean? No matter what. I don't care. No sleep.
I feel like in college, I went out Thursday through Sunday.
Thursday
every
through
weekend.
Sunday. Yeah, that's right.
And now I don't want to.
Nah, to be fair.
I mean, we're out every
I was about to say.
but let it hit 9 p.m.
Yeah.
I gotta go home.
Yeah,
I shut down. It's almost automatic.
You need to start taking midday naps.
No, I can't.
Why not?
I literally cannot. I can only take a nap if I'm like sick or just extremely tired.
Why?
I'm just like not a napping person. I just can't nap.
But you also you pull in earlier.
What does that mean?
I mean, you go to sleep early.
Oh, correct. It's also that like I just think too much and I just can't lay down in the middle of the day and like stop. But like for example, you can empty your brain of thoughts almost instantly and fall asleep at any moment.
Hey, look,
I can't do that.
Hey, babe, when I tell you, I'm going to bed.
Empty, no thoughts. All the brain cells are out.
Done. This shit is over.
Literally.
Yeah.
You and Campbell.
Yeah.
Campbell's our dog.
Yeah.
You guys don't
know. I mean, I guess we got new people to be listening. Shout out to y'all for getting us back on the charts. On a new chart, actually. We don't really talk about the numbers like that, but like we've been on the charts. But it's just crazy to be on a new chart. Yeah. You know, the places and travel.
Places and travel.
Yeah. Ranking out here in 3 different countries.
Ranking.
You feel me? So today we're talking about Lincoln Park Community Area Numero 7. Damn, I fucked that up.
Do you know how to say 7 in Spanish?
Siete.
Correct.
Yeah.
Good job.
Numero 7.
How do you say 7 in Arabic?
Ooh, shit. What you mean? You know damn well I don't know that.
Yes, you do. You learned to 10.
No, I didn't. I heard to 10. You should learned it? No, I don't know. What is it?
Ça
Yeah, I would have never. You would have been like gun to your head. Say it. I would have been like, ooh, child.
Siete. How was your week so far?
Good.
How's it been going?
I mean, I'm good.
Vibing.
Yeah, I'm vibing.
My friend Denise invited me as her plus one to the launch of the Chicago Gourmet.
Kicking off.
So what it was like a party to launch this ticket sales. So ticket sales have started for the September Chicago Gourmet. It was a fun event. It was a lot of like industry people, a lot of like restaurateurs, restaurant owners, some reporters.
You was out there connecting.
I was, but it was a lot of like reporters and stuff like that. So not a lot of influencers. I think there was only like a handful of them. So very much like chefs and restaurant owners and stuff. It was a good time.
Way to be around. Yeah.
Chill.
Oh, you know what?
A couple hours, exactly how I like it, 6 to 8. I was home by 8:30.
By your bedtime.
And I was in bed by 9. That's literally, invite me if that's the vibe. I will be there. 6 to 8, my prime time.
No, Sarah gonna be out. Don't do that.
No.
You'll be out if it's opportunity, if it's a good vibe. Because we go out, we be having fun.
But I don't want to.
You sound like me in the early days of the podcast.
Early day. You still like this?
No, I go outside. No,
yeah, but you don't want to.
I went on a stretch where I was like, I don't want to go out. I ain't trying to go nowhere. I'm a little different.
That stretch is still
No. I'm a little different.
No.
Oh,
also, you just don't want to go to the places with me.
No. That's not true. That's not true. I did get myself in a.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and it's my birthday in a few weeks.
Yeah. We got some fun. We got some fun with the birthday. But check it out, y'all. I don't know if y'all saw on social media, but you know, us and Barry Butler, we good people now. We in tight.
So Dario's Barry Butler's biggest number one fan.
Number one fan.
And so for Barry Butler to follow us was
follow
special.
us and repost us on his page talking about he promoted us. Honestly,
special.
dream come true. That and Jeffrey Bear's number was the top one. That was the first one that I was like, man, idol.
Yeah.
Then Barry Butler learned, like, seeing him and just like as I become a photographer, seeing what he does, man.
That's your boy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We actually like I'm friends with all the people I've been idols with.
Isn't that crazy?
That's just absolutely insane. Deadpool Wolverine come out today, as of this episode.
And we're gonna go see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna spoil the shit out of it for you Monday because
No,
I'm not playing. I'm not gonna do that. I've never done that on the podcast. So in 4 years, never.
We're gonna start this week. I'm just
This week, though, I'm spilling all of me. No, I'm excited for it. I can't wait to. If you see it and you want to chop it up with me, I will have some context to talk. Sarah will too. So you can. It's fun. We can talk about it, but. That's been the midday week check-in.
Midday week.
Not
midweek.
Midweek. So like I said, Lincoln Park. This one was pretty fun. We were at Nookie's 2, and they got their reason why it's called Nookie's 2 is because Nookie's.
I think they closed.
See, that's why we don't do the food no more.
I know.
That's why we don't do it because it's hard, man.
But they have 2 locations,
right?
And this is their second one.
Yeah, this one was cool. We did the history part with the Chicago History Museum. Julius, he is no longer there with them. He went back to the D, I believe.
To the D.
Yeah, Detroit.
Oh.
And slow down.
Yeah, Nookie's 2 is closed.
Damn, man. Fuck. Is Nookie's 1 still open?
Let's see.
Because Nookie's 2 is TOO, so to be like Nookie's also.
So Nookie's on Wells is still open.
Good. That Nookie's 2 was fine.
And I believe that is the chain. It's not chain.
It's not chain. No, that's the first one.
Like a family-owned restaurant.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Yeah.
And the food was good, but we not talking about the food. This was just we was on location and we recorded inside the breakfast time with Julius from Chicago History Museum, and that's what we're gonna play. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This episode originally aired November 22nd, 2021. What's happening?
What's happening with you?
Not much. We here live again.
Yeah, buddy.
Forks and spoons going crazy. another 77 flavors starts now.
This is the podcast where we visit all 77 of Chicago's historic neighborhoods and discuss their heritage and taste the amazing food.
And if you know anything about us, we love 2 things, food and Chicago, so I can't wait to burn this gas money.
You ready?
Let's get it.
This is the 77 Flavors of Chicago, the podcast.
Welcome back to another dope episode, number 24.
Damn.
Yeah, we moving right along. Moving right along.
What's half of 77?
I should. 30 something and a half. I don't know.
30 something and a half.
Right. I know it's a half in it because it's an odd number, so right. It's got to be a half.
That's true.
Dario, Sarah,
hey.
And we here with our good friend that we broke bread with, Julius from the Chicago History Museum. Y'all make some noise for our boy Julius right now. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for feeding me.
We just said how you doing, like we have been sitting with him for like an hour.
Well, that's the thing. You can't get rid of me because you fed me. So.
Yeah. You here with us now?
Right. I'm here.
You here with us? Like I said, Julius is a curator and historian working out of the Chicago History Museum, but that's not the only place you've been. You want to go ahead and tell people about yourself?
Yeah. A historian and a curator. I've been here in Chicago now for over 7 years. I came to work on my PhD in history at the University of Chicago, and I'm finishing up, so I'm excited about that. And I got my start in museums, actually at the DuSable Museum of African American History, so I always want to shout them out and
there you go.
Give them some love for giving me an opportunity to get in this field. Yes, please support the DuSable. And after a couple of years, I was working on a grant-funded project that was using technology and social media to really engage with different audiences and get them connected to history.
Yeah.
And after the project was winding down, I transitioned to the Chicago History Museum, where I've been now over 4 years, and in that time, did some digital content management. Now working in curation as assistant curator, and now a full curator, and just really working to bring new stories about Chicago, new perspectives on some of the stories we already know, and I'm enjoying it very much.
That's so dope. And one of the exhibits you just put on last month is the Chicago Fire exhibit, right?
Yes, I've been practicing this word. It is the sesquicentennial.
I don't even know.
What the hell?
See, you wasted your time practicing that.
What is that word? I ain't never heard.
Is that 600?
150th anniversary.
What is it?
Sesquicentennial. Yes.
Sesquicentennial?
Yes.
Oh,
Look
Lord.
at you. You're good with foreign words.
Yes. I guess.
What?
Sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial.
Yes.
Man,
What?
I don't
That's
know.
not
Now
it.
I'm
That's
talking.
not
Right.
Man, I had that
It
one
took a
time.
long time, right? We worked
How
on
many
the
syllables is that?
exhibit.
Same.
It's got too many.
That's too many.
So we've been working on this exhibit almost 2.5 years.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Which is not the longest I've ever heard of to work on an exhibit, actually. So it takes a lot of legwork. But we opened it on the anniversary date, which was October 8th. And we're really excited about the engagement that we've gotten. It's an experience designed for the whole family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's something adults will connect with, children will connect with. They'll be able to interact with it together.
Yeah.
So it's really, a great opportunity, a great way to spend a couple hours learning about this important event in Chicago history.
Perhaps the most important event.
Yeah.
Because, we've talked about the Chicago Fire, the Great Chicago Fire, for a long time now on the podcast, and honestly, it really did shape,
literally
what Chicago is right now, and how we kind of pivoted to be better, you know what I'm saying, and how we influence the rest of the world too. So, the Chicago Fire, if y'all please go out and check that out, because I'm sure.
How long is it running for?
Yeah,
it's technically a permanent exhibition.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Good.
We're projecting it to be open at least through 2024 and into 2025.
Nice.
Good.
Okay.
So
we got time.
Plenty of time to come to it. And one of the things I've enjoyed is we did a good job creating a rich experience that I think you can be seen multiple times, right?
Yeah,
so I recommend coming and then, coming back and seeing it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to take.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, where is Chicago History Museum?
Chicago History Museum is located at 1601 North Clark, on the corner of Clark Street and North Avenue.
Yeah.
It's with the southernmost edge of Lincoln Park.
There you go.
So yes, please stop by. We're open 6 days a week. We're closed on Mondays, but the rest of the days we're open, and we'd love to have you.
There you go. So that's a nice segue. Talking about Clark Street into the history part, and now y'all, I already let Julius know that he is the historian. So I'm gonna take a half day today, y'all. I know what I know, but I'm gonna let him do what he does. But I don't know, Julius, if you really ready, but this is how we get ready here on the podcast. We have to get ourselves in sync.
This is the spirit that guides us through the learning process.
It's this little moment right here. There we go.
We have not been sued yet.
Right, I thought you were going to tell me, that drugs are bad.
They are.
This is set up. This is a DARE program right here.
This is a DARE program. Oh, man. So if you haven't noticed by the title of the podcast, today we are talking about Lincoln Park Community Area number 7 here in Chicago. And the boundaries are Diversity Parkway to the north, North Avenue to the south, Lake Michigan to the east. When you get to these north places,
right, yeah,
Lake Michigan is always the eastern border. And then Chicago River to the west. This is the first one where we have Chicago River to the west.
To the west?
Oh, yeah. This is also the second time we've been talking about it.
I can't imagine that. Where is that?
So you remember the bridge where the Best Buy, right over there.
Oh, like Webster.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the Lincoln Park boundary.
Gotcha.
But and now that's kind of cool for the people that are trying to visualize this. If you've been to Lincoln Park, now you know what we're talking about. You know, the river, that's the western edge. You know, so pretty cool. I'm glad that we started doing that because that does give people a visual. So now we were talking about Clark Street. We were talking about, and that was a segue. There's a little fun fact about that right there. So, 1824, the 19th century is what we're talking about. The U.S. Army actually had a small outpost near what is today's Claiborne and Armitage Avenue. But the Native Americans had a settlement along Green Bay Trail, which today is Clark Street. And now Clark Street, Green Bay Trail actually went all the way to Green Bay, Wisconsin.
No way.
Yes, it did. And parts of
Fuck the Packers.
Yeah. Let me give you one more here. Let me give you one of these. Hold on. Say that one more time for the people in the back. Yes, you
I'm
can.
only allowed
yes, you
one
can.
fuck.
No. That's all you need for the Packers is one fuck. You know? So Clark Street, as we know it today, was Green Bay Trail, and it went all the way to Green Bay. It actually still goes to, it's called Green Bay Trail up in Milwaukee right now. So, yeah, so fun history right there about Clark Street. That's why I was like, that's a perfect thing. You got anything on it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned the indigenous people. You know, one of the things we're trying to do at the History Museum, and I think all of us Chicagoans, is understanding our relationship to the land, understanding the First Nations who are still here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've always got an opportunity to edify that, and there's so much more. Even I will say that I need to learn and more work I need to do. And I think coming from that place of realizing that we need to listen and learn and not presume that we know everything.
Yeah.
It's so invaluable.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and so we always try to find like the Native American history because, like, you know, the word Chicago stems from a Native American word. You know what I mean? So, and that's such a deep history in here in Chicago. So it's funny, like I found that little bit of information, which is realistically so important because, you know, we are on Clark Street all the time. You know what I mean?
All the time.
Nuts on Clark is a thing made famous, you know what I mean, by Chicago baseball, you know, and peanuts, things like that. But you know, you just say Nuts on Clark and you say Clark Street, and you don't realize, well, that was especially our arch rivals, Green Bay. You went all the way up there, you know, so, and then the Native Americans had a settlement there.
Right.
You know?
I feel like, honestly, and this is my own fault because I do have all the information in the world on my phone, but I'd never even crossed my mind to like look around and see where things started.
Right.
And I think we're actually coming up on the 6-month anniversary of this podcast. So over the last 6 months, I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I learned the most was the river tour with the Chicago Architecture Center.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
That was mind blowing. I mean, it was really eye opening, and I encourage everyone because there is indigenous history all around you. So whatever neighborhood you're in, you should probably look that shit
Check
out.
it out. And the cool thing is Chicago now, I feel like in these times now where identity and identifying history and is such a huge thing, whether it be individually or as a greater mass situation. Chicago's really owning up that Potawatomi and you know, like you see the signage is up now right there on the river walk, and that wasn't there before. You know, that wasn't there before, but now we are kind of owning that history and making it very visible.
Right.
You know?
Especially for a city that has a lot of privileged neighborhoods, I think you owe it to, and that's okay. I mean, you don't control the privilege you're born with, but I think it's also very important to like choose to educate yourself because, and then use that privilege in a way that betters your community.
Yeah.
And then also my thing I think is remembering that First Nation and Indigenous people are still here.
Right.
We sort of tell this history that they're gone.
Right.
And, but they're
still here.
They're still here, right? And so, you know, again, making opportunities to learn and connect. You know, there's so much work in American Indian Center here in the city that we really need to do more. So I agree. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna bring up some more stuff, and again, we are live on location. So
if you hear the espresso machine in the background,
they're filling up coffee pots right now, right here in Nookie. So, But continually, but as we were talking like before, where we were eating about the borders of Chicago, what it used to be, and Lakeview, Lincoln Park used to be part of the Lakeview Township. And we've talked about this several times during the podcast over the last 24 weeks. But it was originally part of the Lakeview Township, and the northern border of Chicago was North Avenue, right around that area. Which is, when you think about it, that's small. You know what I mean?
Very small.
That's very small where we used to be. And we were talking, laughing, joking, because last week's episode, go back and listen to it, we were just in Hyde Park.
Right.
And that was considered a suburb, a getaway. That, you know what I mean? Like, just like, think about that. Hyde Park was a getaway for Chicago.
Yeah.
You know? So it just shows you how small Chicago was and how much we've grown. So
absolutely right. And thinking about that process of growing, and like how a city grows, what does it mean for a city to grow, and how, you know, waterways, you know, you mentioned the Chicago River, how they really define life in the city, right?
Right.
How, you know, I was talk about, I give a tour of Chicago's history through its flag, and the blue bars actually represent water in Chicago, and tell the story about, you know, building the Great Canal, which is now the main branch of the river, traversing the flow, this sort of engineering marvel, all the things that have happened that really shape the city today. And so it's so important to be mindful of this.
Right.
Yeah. You don't realize that, like you said, the waterways. You know, Chicago River is not just something that's a pretty thing to talk about.
Right.
You know, that was a means of business. That was a means of population. You know what I mean? Like, and getting people to come here and be like, oh, yeah, let's settle right here. Hell, after, you know, we did the, I think it was Irving Park where we were at, when we did that one. But the river is the reason why we kind of have the bricks now after the Chicago fire. You know, because, you know, we needed to figure out something. Once people found out, oh, wait a minute, this clay right here is actually good for making bricks so that we don't burn down again.
Right.
You know?
Actually, I had a did the city start expanding after the fire?
Yeah,
is that when?
after the
Okay.
fire, yeah.
Okay.
So annexation happens in the 1880s and 1890s, and basically bringing in these areas, the suburbs, into the city to grow, and that continues, you know, to happen. So by about the turn of the century, Chicago roughly has its shape that it is now. So as you see, very rapid and very large expansion.
Yeah, and speaking of that annexation, 1889, of course, for like the fifth or fourth time on the podcast, we've said Lakeview Township, that's when it was annexed to the city.
Right.
And now when we say it's annexed to the city, a lot of times the city, you got it, right? And then we said, all right, now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, in addition to the riverways, it was streets. A lot of times when they came annexed, you know, they became greater because now city provided. You got streetcar accessibility. You
Isn't
got
that why
train,
Irving Park
really blew up?
Became part of the city because they didn't have the infrastructure.
They didn't have that means. They thought they could do it on their own because they wanted that to be like its own, you know, like little village and such. But you know, they realized we can't do this shit.
We don't have the resources.
We don't even have street lights. That's how serious it was in Irving Park. You know, they didn't have street lights. But now Lakeview Township was kind of like a little bit more advanced, so to say. But you still didn't have the amenities that Chicago was getting as a whole city. So, you know, of course, it became part of Chicago 1889. Now, 1868, Lincoln Park was open. Lincoln Park Zoo, the park, actual park was open. And it is, we said this before, the largest one in Chicago, 7 miles, over 1,200 acres.
That's crazy.
Spanning the eastern seaboard, eastern part.
Lake George.
The lake.
It's huge, right? And then, you know, there's so many great institutions. Obviously, you have us, the History Museum, but you also have Lincoln Park Zoo, which is a wonderful zoo that's free admission, so you can't beat that. And then you also have the Nature Museum, the Penguin Boulevard Nature Museum. So a lot of great cultural institutions just in that park, and it's massive.
It's huge.
It is.
Yes,
it is. My favorite thing, which I think is still part of Lincoln Park Zoo, is the the lily pond.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. It's like a little door. You go in and it's like a beautiful you don't feel like you're in the city, and that's what I love the most about having such a large park in the city is you can really escape from being in the crowded.
Yeah, I mean it's funny now. It used to be escape to get out of the city, but now it's escape within the city.
Right, right.
So because Lincoln Park is so massive, you really do feel like, damn, this is here.
Yeah,
like this.
I remember as like a child when we used to visit, we would come from Jordan every summer because my uncle lived here, and it used to blow my mind that you can be in a city. To one side, it's like green and parks and a lake, and then the other side, it's like skyscrapers.
Right.
And that's why it's such an amazing place to be.
It's always in a backdrop too.
Yeah.
It's always a beautiful backdrop because if you go right over there, right outside of Lincoln Park, I mean, you on the bridge right there, you're looking at the skyline,
right?
And that's a huge picture, Instagrammable place right there. But
and then also the lake and having like a beach right
in the
several
city.
right like that's great too, and just being able to recreate and having the planners, the people who having the vision to realize that you need to set aside space to enjoy. I mean, Chicago has a lot of great parks.
A lot of great parks.
Like you don't realize like that. That's a luxury, right? Because there are so many places in the world where that's not the case.
That's not the case. Yeah. What's crazy is what you said in there real quick there. You said we plan for it. And that's the thing about Chicago is like the foresight. Hey, we've driven through and we say, like, think about it. We have a major highway going through a city.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's well done. So to say, it takes forever to build, finish that motherfucker.
How much of this park planning came after the fire?
Oh, actually, a lot of it came on some level before the fire, as you mentioned Lincoln Park before, but the man sort of known as was the planner, Daniel Burnham. He wrote his plan for Chicago in the early 1900s, and he really sort of laid out a vision for growth and setting aside major thoroughfares, like boulevard system, expanding the parks, creating more open space and greenery in the city, and really sort of being attentive to quality of life in ways that we are the beneficiaries of even now. And I mean that's one of the things I just noticed when I got here was you sort of think you're going to go into an urban jungle type thing, and it's not quite like that in Chicago.
It's almost the opposite.
Right. And, there it is great. It does so many places feel like neighborhoods. It does feel like home. It is welcoming and inviting, and nothing like some other major cities. And so I think Chicago is a well planned place.
Very well planned.
Yes.
And we've mentioned on this right now, this episode particularly, we've mentioned the Chicago fire. Something interesting about the Chicago fire that I do want to bring up in very, very deep correlation to Lincoln Park. So Lincoln Park had a cemetery, right? We didn't start burying people until 1843, right? Is when people start getting buried. It's a 57-acre cemetery, right? Right in Lincoln Park. And the cholera pandemic kind of killed off a lot of people around that time, right? It was very bad for a lot of people. Right at Clark and North Avenue, we're back to Clark and North Avenue, is where a lot of people were buried, right?
Yeah.
Now, there was about 35,000 people that were buried. Now, and keep this in mind, you had to bury some people somewhere. So when you have a new cemetery, right, that you have to put all these bodies somewhere, it accumulates 35,000, right? Chicago fire happens, right? Chicago fire happens, and you gotta move. Well, before then, it started to get overrun. So you got to move people to move the burial. So they were like moving bodies and things to
That's
other
crazy.
places. One we just visited, Rose Hill Cemetery.
Yeah.
A lot of places were going there to move there. Like Graceland and things like that. Grace Cemetery. Now, here's where the Chicago fire played, because back in the day, all you had was markers. Where you can mark down where the bodies were, right? Chicago fire came, tore down all the markers, right? and you had no place.
That's
you didn't know
crazy.
where things were. This is where it gets kind of wild, right? because of that, Chicago really didn't know where the bodies were. You know what I mean? Without the markers, you don't know where these bodies were. And I've mentioned before that there's a lot of bodies underneath Michigan Avenue too that we don't know where. You know,
That's
you don't,
insane and creepy.
Yeah, here's that. So a third of those 35,000 people, a third, which is 10,000 roughly, people are still buried unallocated. We don't know. We don't know.
And the museum is built directly on that old grave site.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so every once in a while when we're out there doing stuff, we find remains, right?
Yeah.
And, we have a process now for working with people who deal with sort of the dignity of human remains and sort of make sure that they're properly cared for. But it's an issue you sort of think about.
Do you have any haunted stories?
Oh yeah, I mean there are so many people claim that they've seen haunted
People
at the
walking.
museum and haunted and stuff. I've never had an experience with a supernatural or paranormal in the museum, but I've heard stories from colleagues that have said that different things in the museum are haunted, and so we talk about that. I actually did a media interview with WG and talking about sort of the haunted history of Lincoln Park because of, like you said, these were people's final resting places, and they were disturbed, they were disrupted. And, you start realizing that dead is forever, right?
Yeah,
right.
And
there you just and I was actually reading a story about like what we should do, like that maybe burying people is not the most viable thing because you start thinking about it, like
you need the land.
You're gonna run out of space. Right?
You need the land. Yeah.
So
and it's wild
That's
because
crazy.
And again we keep having this theme of yesteryear whenever we talk about these dates as we get into the 20th century. In 1962, when they were building the Zoo Barn Foundation, is when they discovered rows of skeletons and caskets. Right, just discovery. And get this. 1998, 81 more remains were found when they were building the museum right there for us. So it's like you think about it, you like.
I would quit my job if I was the person digging that up. I'd be like, I'm not coming back.
I'm done with this.
Yeah. It's so wild to think. And like I mentioned before, they tried to move everybody as much as they could, so that fire wouldn't destroy it. But there's one tomb that's still there in Lincoln Park that they just couldn't move because it was too big. It's mausoleum. So
it's still there. We recently opened an outdoor experience at History Trail, and so it's a stop on the trail, and so you can walk through and learn about the history of the park and the museum outdoors. And so it's so fascinating to think about working every day on a cemetery. You try not to realize that, right? And that there are still some folks buried out there.
Yeah, still some people out there.
Right.
On a lighter note, so as we kind of progress through the 19th into the 20th century, the Great Depression actually had a huge impact on Chicago, Lincoln Park particularly, because a lot of the buildings. This was a more affluent area, right? Because of Lakeview Township and a little bit more affluent. But the Great Depression came, and a lot of the buildings that were here they were going down. They went down. Nobody was upkeeping. Kind of like Uptown, Uptown had its boom, and then when Depression hit, people were like, we can't afford this shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
So in 1954, the Lincoln Park Conservation Association was created to, again, this concept of Chicago being a great city, preserve a lot of that stuff, preserve a lot of the buildings, and obviously a lot of tie-ins right here. But I believe it's 1956 when Mayor Daley the Renewal Act for Lincoln Park. That kind of caused a little bit of a rift, with some of the folks here that were local at the time. And by local, I mean this area, huge Polish population.
Yes.
Back when it first was founded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, huge Polish. And actually, back then it wasn't Poland. It wasn't. They weren't Polish. That was like the north. It's now the northeastern part of Poland is where they came from. But while they were here, Puerto Ricans were a huge population. Like the first home in not Humboldt Park, they were like the first home in Lincoln Park here, and they really in the 50s, 60s, 70s made their home here, right? Now, I said it was a riff, right? Because Mayor Daley, the first Mayor Daley, he
There's two of them?
yes, he did the Renewal Act, right? And so when he did that, the Urban Renewal Act, it kind of forced a lot of the Puerto Ricans out.
Yes, a lot of displacement, right? And these people realize it. I mean, even some of my colleagues that worked at the museum over 30 years remember, sort of Lincoln Park having a working class vibe and having some sort of like working class culture. And I think now, as it being on the north side, has become much more affluent in its sort of orientation, but it does have a long history of being a first destination for immigrant population.
Right.
If you think about it, it has a great location, right? As a neighborhood, it's easily accessible. It's very close to downtown. And if you look around, you'll see there's a lot of housing stock, right? So there's a lot of sort of apartments and places to live, but there are also a lot of big old houses, right? And a big old house, if you got the wherewithal and the means, can become a very, very valuable piece of property very quickly.
Very quickly. And this is kind of like the start of like the Puerto Rican human rights type of situation that started. And the guy by the name of Jose Chacha Jimenez was the president of the Young Lords. Here, street gang here in Chicago. Now, of course, street gang. I'm sure if you do your history in Chicago, you know what a street gang is. You've probably heard of the Young Lords, right? They transformed into a human rights activist group, actually, which actually spread outside of Chicago and filtered its way throughout the country, throughout the nation, for their work when it comes to human rights. And their whole thing is people of color getting pushed out, when they lived there.
Which is like a timeless story.
It's a timeless story, right? But this kind of made a huge impact. Of course, the government didn't like the thought process of gangs, because that's what they were. Instead, they flipped the narrative, of course. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't tell the true story of what the Young Lords had become. Now, the cool thing about what the Young Lords did is they were so big in the community. In 1983, when Harold Washington ran for mayor and he got it, you know what I mean? Like, they were kind of a big driving force, because they spoke to the people in Humboldt Park. And of course, at that time, Humboldt Park had become more Puerto Rican than it was originally German, things like that. So,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to comment on the like the gang culture, because like in college, part of my final like senior project was talking about the cartel and the gangs and how they create so much of the economy of the city that they're in or the country that they're in, and they bring in like billions of dollars. But I think you label some things gangs, like, I mean, the Black Panthers were called a gang.
But they weren't. We just fight for our rights.
Well, I mean, a lot of these gangs sort of are able to thrive because they sort of fill a vacuum that exists because things, particularly advocacy, protection. The Black Panthers, this sort of idea of documenting mistreatment by authorities, by law enforcement as a part of its experience, and then also even crime. There's a vice. There's a market for vice, right? This is why the government is in the vice business now, because they understand like people gonna want to drink, people gonna want to smoke, people gonna want to gamble, right? So. Now the government does it, right?
That's a money
investment right there.
Right. I mean, apparently we're gonna be the Midwest Las Vegas. I don't know if you.
We got it. There's about 5 different bids in.
Right. Like they got authority to build like 6 casinos, and I'm like, who's going to like all these casinos?
I mean, when you got well, now here's the thing. So Chicago, obviously, we know we're on the population decline, right? They talk about by 2040 we might be 4th now, but something like that, you got you put some casinos here. What does that do to the population? You know what I mean? Like, people are going to, at the very least, we're going to be a tourist. At the very least. So,
sorry, but to jump back to the gang thing, I think one thing is like when you look at a place like Chicago where it is part of like the history is the existence of like mobs and gangs. I think it's important to think of like why did they feel the need to exist, or why to this day do they feel the need to exist in certain neighborhoods? It's because something that should be provided by the government that is meant to care for you is lacking.
Well, gangs are still being formed every day.
Right.
When you think about it, we just
And
call
they
it something
start-
different.
they start for
we just march
protection.
down the street. You know,
Right,
we
right,
can,
right,
that's
right,
how we do.
right.
You know, we organize different now, and it looks a little bit more presentable
Right.
than calling us a gang.
Yeah.
But when really all we doing is fighting for our rights.
Right,
We
and
fight for-
most gangs start as like a form to protect the people that live in the community.
That's exactly right.
And there's this one of the largest Mexican gangs to ever exist. At one point, they were violent. They would come in and they would kill people to kind of like mark their territory. But they were also like, if you were part of the gang, you got health insurance. Your kids went to school for free. You were protected. You had a pension when you retired. So like they're businesses. I mean,
Right.
in their core. And I think there was a TED talk about how they talk about how they're actually businesses.
Right. I
Not
mean,
advocating for gangs. I'm
No,
just
yeah,
trying to
no,
explain.
And I mean, I think it's the answer to that is that someone's going to provide for
Right.
people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's either going to be a legitimate entity or illegitimate.
Yeah, right.
But people are going to get what they need, and
Right.
so
Yeah.
I think thinking about that as we start addressing, policies
Right.
around how we're going to help people get access to the things that they need. Because
Right, exactly.
There's so much that people are lacking access to.
Man, look, and that's like you said, it's a story as old as time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I bet a lot of people listening didn't even think about that part of history when it came to Lincoln Park, because the Lincoln Park we know today, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Right,
You know what I mean? You
right.
wouldn't be able to tell. But here's some kind of going a little bit back in time with some more fun history. 1893, we know that was the World's Fair,
Yep.
the Chicago Fair, the World Columbian Exposition.
I'm not
whatever
gonna
you
do it
wanna
this
call
time. I'm not
yeah,
gonna do it.
Yeah, don't do it. We're not getting into it for
Okay.
no. Let's not. The listeners know what we're talking about. We'll tell you off air. All right, Julius.
All right.
But in 1893, the original Ferris wheel that made it at the Chicago Fair was built and created, and it lived in over there for 3 years.
Over where?
Over in Navy Pier.
Oh, okay.
Navy Pier. Now, where not Navy. It was Navy Pier.
No, it
wasn't.
It's down at the fair site on the Midway.
Yes.
Oh,
So
right.
The Plaza Nines.
there you go. There we go. Yeah. In 1896 to 1993, moved to a small amusement park. It was right on Clark and Wrightwood Avenue.
Yes.
Is it gone?
Well, yes.
Yes, the original Ferris wheel is gone.
Yeah. So the funny thing is it's gone. It went to actually St. Louis. It went to
Oh,
St.
right.
Louis.
I remember you. I think we talked about this already.
Yeah, it went to St. Louis.
It gives the people a sense of scale.
It was 200.
Yes. The thing I always tell people is the coach cars that you ride in were the size of today's school buses.
Yes.
So
What?
Yes.
Yeah. So you
this is a
imagine
very big thing.
very big thing. 200. It was over 200 feet tall.
So is it bigger than the one that's there now?
It's not bigger than
No.
the one that's there now, but it was bigger than the one that was there before.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Gotcha.
that one just changed.
Yes.
But the one that's
recently.
there, the one that's there now, the coach cars aren't that big.
No, not it. I don't think you could do that now.
It's almost like how did they
How did they do
get,
that?
Right,
How
how
they
did
get away
do
with
it?
that? Yeah. Well, I mean, when
You had like 20 buses just
Yes,
floating.
that's
in
right.
way
the
more
air.
than that shit.
Right.
Yeah, it just.
When you trying to show off the world to
Right,
the world
that's
that we,
true. We're the
this-
best.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it all started, was just to stick it to France, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we're not gonna build a tower, we're
Right.
gonna build a wheel.
Yeah, right. We're gonna build the and actually it was because they wanted to compete with the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
You know, so
Wow.
that's why it was really made.
Yes, it's
That's
crazy.
And then, but we still love French. So in France, you know,
yes,
we
yes.
still love them. We just beat them every time.
Right.
Another cool thing, DePaul University is right here in Lincoln Park. But did you know that it wasn't called DePaul University first? It was called St. Vincent's
Oh
College.
yeah,
And-
because there's St. Vincent's Church,
Yep,
right?
yep.
On
18,
campus.
1898. It wasn't until 1907 that it was called DePaul University, and I put 1907 to dash.
Yeah, right.
like it's
So
gonna
now,
change.
right.
Right.
But yeah, that's some fun bit of history. Some notable people. I always like doing notable people here in the neighborhoods. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. I've mentioned them several times. Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert, film critics, movie critics.
Yep.
They were our TV guys. They were our IMDb. They were our Rotten Tomatoes before. Before those were a thing. Yeah, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. They were here. Jonathan Taze, you probably have no clue what I'm talking about.
No idea.
That is a hockey player for Chicago Blackhawks.
A what player? A hockey player.
Yeah.
Hockey?
Yeah, hockey. Let's do that hockey.
Sure, yeah.
It's a significant team here in Chicago.
It is. I remember the year they won the championship.
Yeah.
And I was flying out of O'Hare, and you couldn't look anywhere without seeing Blackhawks.
Yeah, we got pride here. We got pride here. We love our team. Part of the original 6. Chicago is a sports town.
You know what fact really blew my mind? You said it's one of the few, or maybe the only city where all of its major sports teams are in the city.
Yep. Until the Bears say
right. For now, right?
Man, for now we are.
I don't think they will.
Shit.
Why would they?
It's getting serious now. Let me
that
tell you.
really?
I mean, it's all about money. I've been fascinated by the Atlanta Braves, right? So, because the Atlanta Braves obviously played in Atlanta for many years, but they moved to a suburb called Cobb County, suburb, and it's alienated a lot of people because they had a very large African American following. They were in sort of that area. Obviously, Hank Aaron being a famous Brave, and by moving to Cobb County, a predominantly white suburb, a lot of African American fans felt like they abandoned it.
Yep.
And on the one hand, I can sort of see that because brothers love the Bears in Chicago.
We love the Bears.
I
get depression when we lose.
Right. It's like so they have a strong following, I think, in the African American community, especially with Justin Fields now.
Yes.
Getting ready to do his thing. But when you start looking at teams' fan bases, not who roots, but who buys tickets.
Right.
Tickets is high, right?
Yeah.
So the people buying tickets tend to be more affluent and disproportionately be suburban. So I'm confident that the Bears got metrics that say the people who actually buy tickets and actually come into the games are disproportionately suburbanites.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, the south suburbs, there's a lot of people that live on the south suburbs that, that...
Yeah, but you're going to, when... The answer is going to be we need the space,
right?
But that's going to be the safe answer.
Yes, and Soldier Field is the smallest
in the
stadium
for the oldest team in the league.
Yeah, and also it's a landmark, and so it makes it sort of limited in what you can do. So there's a lot of logistical challenges. But what I'm always fascinated by is there is land, around.
You got.
So they want to expand it, but they can't. Is that the thing?
Well, I think it obviously boils down to money, because they don't, like you said, you don't want to mess with a landmark here in Chicago, and you've already messed with it once,
right?
You know what I mean? And that
also Kanye set himself on fire inside it. So.
Yeah, he's a wild boy, but you've already messed with it a couple times. So, do you want to keep on doing it? And now just to add a dome over
that's all really, they want. They just want to add a dome.
Well, you want more seating too. You want more seating, but eventually, the Super Bowl is huge.
You can host a Super Bowl. You can host a Final Four.
Yeah.
If it's an indoor, even a retractable roof, you have more options for different
all right,
things.
I think that's my cap for sports talk.
All right. We overloaded.
I've reached the limit.
Overloaded. I got one last thing, and I'm gonna get out of here when it comes to notable people. Did you know the first American saint by the Roman Catholic Church was here? Lived here.
I did not know that.
In 1940s, July 7th, 1946, she was canonized as the Roman American saint, and her name was Mother Frances Xavier Cabrini.
From Cabrini.
From Cabrini, there you go. There you go. So, we got our notables here, man. Chicago, again, one of the greatest cities, especially in America, but all over the place. So
that's crazy.
That's my history, man. I feel like I hung in there with you.
Yeah, man. No, you did it. Come on through to the history museum, man.
Hey, let's go.
Let's go to do it.
I love Chicago history. I don't claim to be a historian, but man, I definitely respect what y'all do, and I love learning about the city, man. And this podcast, I hope that I can translate this through to the people through, put a funny spin on it, but we telling facts, we telling that story, man. What'd you think about this?
I loved it. It was great. I learned so much as always. Probably not going to remember it next time, but
She will remember a lot of stuff.
I remember the stuff that like one that repeats because like of course all the community areas are connected. So like
there is some repetition in.
Yeah, those I remember. Also, now I know when the Chicago fire happened. That date is imprinted in my mind.
Yeah.
Seared into mine.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, you better.
Right.
You've been working on it for a few years.
Yeah. But like I said, we right here in the middle of Nookies right here in Lincoln Park. And we had some good breakfast.
Well, before we jump off, is there any like very interesting Chicago fact that most people don't know that like off the top of your head you like to impress people that are first coming in or like are curious about Chicago?
No, I mean, we touched so much on it. People really are interested about, the cemetery, the museum being built on a cemetery. We tried to talk about so much of what Chicago was like in the past and draw connections. So in the exhibit, we talk about how Chicago was a city made of wood. And that included not only buildings, but streets and sidewalks and even water pipes.
Really?
We have those on display. And actually, if you go by what's known as the Bishop's House, which is right by, right across north from the park, Lincoln Park, you can actually see an alley of wooden paved street, and so you can actually see what it was like.
Where we were.
Basically like blocks, that are turned over, almost looking like bricks, and that's how the streets were made out of wood back then. So it's a really fascinating history.
Man,
that's cool.
We said this before. All you got to do is look around, look up, look down, and you're going to find some history here in Chicago.
Yeah, for real.
Never short on it. Like I said, out here in Nookies too, we're going to take a short little break, get that sponsorship ad money, and and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the food, the breakfast we haven't had. Another breakfast episode. I like it. We'll see y'all in a few.
I hope you enjoyed that. Check back again on Monday for a brand new episode or next Thursday for another rerun. See you soon. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we hope you loved it.
And if you could, please follow us on social media at 77 Flavors Shy on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter.
If you have any ideas or deep dives that you'd love us to do, please contact us at media@77flavorsshy. That's the number 77 flavors and shy for Chicago.com.
If you like visuals, please subscribe and follow and watch us on our YouTube channel at the same thing, 77 Flavors Shy, or search 77 Flavors of Chicago.
If you would like to support us monetarily, go ahead and click that Buzzsprout link in the description of this episode.
And as always, we gonna see you next week. Peace.